Hi, I'm Bruce Nelsmith, your professor this semester. I am, hopefully we've met by now. In the event that we have not, or from some unforeseen reason could not, um, hello and welcome to my just in case. I am the narrator and I am the filmmaker and I am the main character in these pitiful little shows. So they could be kind of rough. You just have to bear with me. As we work, I would like for you to work on about the scale that I work on in under normal conditions. You will be doing all of your work in your mixed media notebook that we'll be providing for you. So you can work a little smaller today than I'm working on screen. I'm working on a scale a little larger than is necessary for you to work in. I want you to be able to follow what I'm doing and see what I'm doing pretty clearly. We're going to be working with the four forms that really form the abstract foundation of all painting and drawing. It is reasonable to assume that with an understanding and a working understanding of these forms, that you can draw practically anything you see out there. And I'll make some illustrations of this as we go along today. So let's get started. I'm working on the floor in my studio. And I'm working a little bit behind the camera. It might be a little difficult for me. I want you to follow along and make the marks that I make as I make them in your notebook, okay? It's asynchronous. You can, if you get a little behind, you can rewind, and take another look at it. But I'm going to move through it pretty quickly. This is a short lesson as the first lesson. Okay, let's get started. First, we're going to work with a sphere. Now, a sphere in drawing is based on a circle. If we make the circle here, at this point, it is just a circle. It is not a sphere yet. In order for this to be a sphere, something three-dimensional, or giving the feeling of something three-dimensional, we have to have a light source. So we'll establish a light source shining down on our sphere. Right, so sun, and we're shining down here on the sphere, so it's being lit from the upper left-hand corner. If that is the case, then this area right here on away from the light source is going to get a value. We're not going to spend a lot of time making this pristine. Move a little bit of that up there and to the top with my finger. And it'll be darker down here away from the light source. It's basis for an orange or an apple, anything like that. And that is our sphere. If it were an orange, it would have, navel in it right in there. If it were an apple, it wouldn't be quite as round, but have a stem out there. So just some of the ideas of how this might be applied. Okay, so now we have a sphere, and the shadowing was necessary in order for us to make a sphere. For us to make a cone and a cube and a cylinder, none of the shading is actually necessary. It can all be done linearly with line work. Let's move from our sphere here to, let's move to something equally as simple. Let's work with a cylinder. To start the cylinder, we're going to start with an ellipse. you are drawing along with me in your sketchbook. So we have an ellipse. And then we're going to drop the two sides of the cylinder down. And then we'll make the bottom of the cylinder. The bottom of the cylinder is a half sphere running up. I'm going to put directional lines on this. You don't need to do that in your drawing. Running up. So the ellipse in the top, two sides, and then the bottom of the cylinder. So we have now two of these already in hand. Can we still see down here? Yes. We're going to work with a cone next. And a cone is a cylinder, except that it narrows as it moves towards the top. So we're going to make a small ellipse. Small ellipse. Drop the two sides of the cone off of that small ellipse, and they will spread as they come down. Bottom of this cone is the same as the bottom of the cylinder. Curled up in that direction. As long as this cone and this cylinder are sitting on a surface, a plane, then this will always curl up in that direction. Right? And as long as you are not directly over the top of it will every time be an ellipse. Every single time. What could this be? This could be a coffee mug up here. If you put a handle on it and you immediately have a rather tall coffee mug. In terms of, just an application for that, or other applications I'm going to show you in a moment or two. A cube. I'm going to drop down a single line that is vertical. And then from that, we're going to move a line up in that direction. A line, you don't need to make these arrows if you don't want to on it, up in that direction. And at the bottom, same thing, up in that direction, up in that direction. Then we'll drop in two sides of the cube. One side, two side. Now we have the two faces closest to you. And we'll complete the cube simply by making lines that move more or less parallel to these two front lines at the top of the cube. So more or less like that, more or less like that. They're also headed up, up. And we have the cube. We're going to work with another version of this cube. And this version of this cube is going to be a version of the cube in which we can't see the top of the cube. If we ask ourselves a question concerning this little cube down here, question to ask would be, can we see the top of it? Yes, we can. This is the top of the cube. We can see the top of the cube. So it's something that is on a ground plane that's lower than us. If we're looking at something that's cube-like and we cannot see the top of it, we see the top. We've got a cube. We see the top in this one. Cannot see the top this next time. We'll start with the same line that is forming our corner of the cube that is closest to us. The bottom will always be the same. It's going to run up, up. But since we can't see the top of this cube, the lines that define the top of it are going to run down, down. That will always be the case. They will always run to some degree or another down away from that corner that's closest to you. If it's sitting on a ground plane, sitting out there in the landscape or sitting in here in the studio and it's cube-like, then they will always run up the lines that define the bottom of it. So some things you can depend on in art. Boy, I'm making a sloppy line from there over here. Here's two sides of the cube. Now this cube has the scale of something like a building, scale, of a building. Why? Because we can't see the top of it. Let's illustrate that for a minute. Maybe here's a door, and we got windows in it, and it's a high-rise building. Lots of windows running across there. So we got a high-rise building out there in the cityscape somewhere. That's the scale of this. The scale of this is somewhat smaller, or something where you are in a situation where you can look down on it. This is a scale in which your little person walking around on the street down here going, whoa, that's a really tall building, right? Okay, so these are our essential forms. There's one other thing that I want to do with the cylinder, because it's going to come up right away in a drawing that we're going to be working with, and that is that I want to take this cylinder and turn it on its side. Let's say that, let me find a cylinder right quick, cylinder-like thing. Let's say that, it's basically your cylinder. What I want to be able to draw now is that cylinder knocked over on its side. So we're taking this and we're going to knock it over onto its side. In order to do that, we are going to begin again with an ellipse, except for this time the ellipse is standing up. And we have the two sides coming back. And then we have the bottom of the ellipse, which is curled. And so now we've knocked the cylinder over onto its side. Cylinder again, but laying on its side. All right, I'm following all of that. Good, good. These are the essential abstract forms that are the foundation of practically all drawing and painting. I'm going to illustrate that a little for you on another sheet of paper here. And you can draw along if you like, or in this instance, you can watch. I am a firm believer in the fact that knowledge and experience are very different things. You can tell me all day long the rules of basketball, but till I get on the court and shoot a few hoops, I'm never going to be any good at it. So knowledge is one thing, and experience, tied to that knowledge is an entirely different thing. So it's good to draw, not simply to understand this. Let's take an application here, an application of the cube. So we've got that corner that's closest to us. We know that goes up, 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 up. We can see the top of this cube. Down, down with the sides. And this is a cube in which we see the top of it. Right now, it's just cube. But what if this were a chair? All we have to do is give it a little more three-dimensionality. Here we'll strengthen these legs up some. Actually, the first thing it's going to turn into is a table. So we have a table now. What if it were a chair? It would just have a back on it. And lines would follow more or less parallel to the lines we already have there. Parallel to that. Parallel. Just dropping side up, side up. Maybe it's a ladder back chair of some sort. That's all you need to know to draw a chair. That's all you need to know to draw a table. That's all you need to know to draw, many different things. We've discussed the drawing of a building over here. That has some application in that if this is the only thing you know, the only thing you know how to draw is that. If you just keep repeating it, you can draw an entire city. Say, okay, I understand how to draw a cube where I can't see the top of it. So, I know these lines always go up, up. I know that these lines always go down, down. Let's say there's another building back here. Down, down, up. We can just keep going and going with this. And in this instance, if it's the only thing that you know, you can keep working with that. Taller and taller buildings back in here, et cetera, et cetera. We just, all of them say they're buildings, and it's a cityscape. I don't need to belabor this point right at the moment, but streets and things would run in the same way and intersect with one another around the city that we just made here. But if you just kept repeating that, eventually you could build, an entire cityscape. And this is based on nothing more than just that one concept there that we discussed over here. How this is going to apply in one of your first drawings. One of your first drawings will be a little landscape, and it's going to have a barn. And I'm making this up out of my just out of my imagination right at the moment. But it will start the same way that this building over here, the one we couldn't see the top of, it'll start the same way as that. So this barn has got a corner that's closest to us. And then it goes down, goes up, up. We're going to make it long over here. Down. I'm going to put the side in. This is just a cube that's been elongated that way. And then there would be some other elements in this. It would have a roof on it, of course. So it would put a roof on it. And what, basically what we know is that right there, except, we can draw a hip roof onto it. And then it might also have a side to it, but where it's been built out some. Goes up, same direction. We can easily draw a barn that is based kind of more or less just on what we knew about. Let's open the barn up and give it some big doors over here. That's basically what we knew about drawing a cube. This is a cube. Right here. In front of another cube. If it had another side on it, there'd be another cube back here, but we're not going to do that. Maybe this barn is sitting in a landscape. It's got wheat and stuff all around it, And then there is a hay bale out here somewhere. That would be that cone on its side. So hay bales aren't real elongated, And this would be, a bale of hay sitting out here in the field. These are abstracted forms right now, but we always start with the abstract, and then we go towards realism, apart, away from that. It's got hay bale. Let's see, probably casting some kind of little shadow out there. Maybe the barn is casting some kind of shadow out from it. You don't need to know a whole lot to be able, it's not anything I see, but if I did come across something like this, I would approach it the same way. I would start with the abstractions and then, work with them until they become more of the reality of what I'm looking at out there. Maybe it's got some trees growing back in here behind it. Maybe it's in the mountains. I don't know. Anyway, you can see immediately, if there's lots of bales of hay, there might be lots of bales of hay. They would all be these cylinders, and maybe they would be sitting in different directions, but each time they'd be drawn the same way. So there might be lots and lots of bales of hay out here. Etc., etc. We could keep drawing bales of hay. I don't see much point in that right now, so I'm just trying to get a simple idea across. Some of the application of these, just very abstract forms. Cone. I don't know if you were working with a wine bottle is simply a cylinder with a cone sitting on top of it. And then you can get in and make a few little adjustments in it for reality's sake. If it had a cork in it, that would just be another cylinder sitting up there. So, applications are really quite endless with this. This is the necessary stuff right here. Seems pretty simple, but the application is almost endless. Every great illustrator knows this stuff. I mean, I'm just sitting here making stuff up, but I couldn't make this up and convince you of this barn in the landscape if I didn't know this stuff over here. I have to know that to convince you that this thing is sitting in space and has occupies a real space. Slats. We could keep moving and moving in a more and more realistic direction with this if we wanted to, but we don't really have that kind of time at this point. We'll do that later and you'll see more application of it. All right, that is our first little installment of video into this, and will help you out a lot to understand this. The end.